Hey tribe, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be covering how should social workers respond to situations regarding domestic violence. So stay tuned. Okay, so let's dive into it. So right off the bat, couples, we do not, NOT, we do not provide therapy services to a couple who is experiencing domestic violence. If the social worker becomes aware that domestic violence is occurring, so at any state, right, in the very beginning or session number 3, right? Um, if the social worker becomes aware that domestic violence is occurring, the social worker should inform the couple that services will need to discontinue and encourage them to obtain their own individual provider for a continuation of care. Why? Because therapy addresses issues. A primary issue for a couple experiencing domestic violence is the ongoing abuse. The abuser could feel ashamed, angry, etc., which could increase further abuse and would negatively impact the healing process for the couple. So keep that in mind, right? If there's active current abuse going on, that's something that's most likely going to be discussed within session. And imagine how that session could go where even the person that's inflicting the harm and everything, they could say like, oh, you told the social worker that? I thought we were good. That happened on a Monday and it's Friday and you brought that up. I thought we worked through that and everything. Like, see, and then again, it just we informed them. And I know some of us may be thinking like, hey, Ray, how about if one of them still wanted to see us for this exam? I don't believe that would be a situation that would come up, but in general, let's say outside of this exam in real life, right? We found out it's going on. We inform the clients that, that it goes against our policy and everything. We don't do that. If all parties are okay with it, and everyone's on the same page and stuff like that, it's like, sure, we can provide them with resources. If one of them still wants to see us individually and everything like that, that can all be, coordinated. But at the same time, we just want to encourage them to find their own separate provider, and that's what we're going to go with for the exam. Next, safety plan. When should we create a safety plan? There's one scenario right here. If a client is involved in an abusive relationship and is ambivalent or unsure about leaving the relationship, we don't persuade or encourage them to leave. A client has to want to leave the relationship for themselves. Social workers have to honor the client's right to self-determination and support them by creating a safety plan. So if we're meeting with the client, right, and they're unsure, ambivalent, like they're like, like, I don't know if I want to necessarily like leave or not, the human in us, right? The human in us wants to say like, get out of there, like your safety, everything like that, right? But as a professional, we honor the client's right to self-determination. Why? They have to want it for themselves. They have to want it for themselves. So, we're processing it while we're meeting. Let's create a safety plan. Very helpful, valuable resources on the safety plan. So if things go left, you have, like speaking to the client, you have something to go to for more support, where shelters may be, where like emergency, all of that great stuff, right? So that's why we want to create a safety plan. And also another scenario where we create a safety plan is if a client is involved in an abusive relationship and plans to return home despite the ongoing abuse. Social workers have to honor clients' right to self-determination and support them by creating a safety plan. So notice in the first scenario, they're processing it with the social worker is like, I don't know if I want, I'm not sure if I want to leave the relationship or not. It's like, I still love them and right? They're unsure. In this scenario, they're saying, listen, I know what's going on. I ain't going nowhere. I plan to return home. Both scenarios, we will want to create a safety plan. Now let's look at this scenario about leaving resources. So if the social worker believes domestic violence is occurring within a client's relationship and the client refuses to talk about it, the social worker should leave the client with resources to utilize in case they change their mind. So it's like, wait a second, why not create a safety plan? They don't want to talk about it. Imagine a client, heck, even if we were the client, if we've ever been in this situation where there's something that's going on, but we're not ready to talk about it. And imagine if our social worker was saying like, come on, talk about it. I don't really want to talk about it for whatever the reason is. Come on, talk about it. You really should talk about it. Come on, let's talk about it. No, right? If they don't want to talk about it, just like does this sound familiar? The scenario, we're going to change around the details. Have you ever had like someone knock at your door? Do. Hey, my name's so and so. I want to sell you on something. Can I tell you about this religion? Can I show you this product? Can I sell you something? And if we were to say, no, no, thank you. I'm okay. I don't really want to talk about it. What do? The sales person, right? They want to show you their product. They want to share their information about a certain religious faith, right? What do? Okay, I see you don't want to talk. Can I leave you my card? Can I leave you this brochure? Can I leave you this resource? Because you don't want to talk about it. And I'm hoping that when I go about my way and as you go throughout your day, you'll see this resource and say, let me look into it a bit and possibly utilize it if it's appealing enough to you for whatever the reason is. So that's why in this scenario, we will lead the client with the resource of the helpful information because they don't want to talk about it. We can't force them to talk about it, even if it would be helpful. Remember Amy Whitehouse song, they tried to make me go to rehab and I said, no, no, no. We can't make people do things. They have to want it for themselves. So in this scenario, we would leave the resources. And in the other scenario with resources, if the social worker believes domestic violence is occurring within a client's relationship and the suspected abuser is currently in the room, because again, we don't know for 100% certain unless the question told us. But if the suspected abuser is currently in the room, the social worker should not speak about it in front of the abuser. The social worker should leave the client with resources to utilize in case they change their mind. Because again, they're in the room. If we don't know definitively if the social worker believes this person's an abuser. So in our professional judgment, we believe, abuse occurred and they're currently in a room. We're gonna be like, hey, do you want to talk about this? The client, no, I don't want to talk about it in this current environment. And if we went up to them, hey, can you leave so I can talk to them alone and and then that's inciting. Lead the resources. And again, the resources is just standard social work information. Hey, because you're there for a reason. It's not like we're just walking and we just stumble upon that situation, right? Someone called us or part of our job. So while we're talking with them, like, okay, we see you're in a situation if it's in like a hospital or hospital room or something like that. So, okay, let's leave some resources and everything like that, helpful resources, and go from there. Because again, no real talking can be done in that environment. So we're going to leave the resources. And this brings us to the other scenario with educate. If a client is involved in an abusive relationship and reports that their partner apologized for the abuse, said it would never happen again, or if the client reports that their relationship has improved since a recent incident, so that would also be known as like the honeymoon phase, the social worker should educate/inform the client about the cycle of violence so they know there's a chance the abuse will continue so the client can make a more informed decision. So notice how we're not persuading them or anything, we're just informing them. And within a question that was kind of speaking to this, where the client is like, oh, it'll never happen again. Things are light years better than it was previously since the last incident, and the last incident was fairly recent. We want to educate the client on, again, this cycle so they can make a more informed decision, because the client is thinking like, oh, everything's like just better, it's improving and everything like that, where in fact, this can just be part of the cycle. So we want to educate. And even outside of this, when do we educate as social workers? Like, again, different topic, like outside of this, when do we educate? And in short, in general, we educate when the client needs education. He's like, wait, Ray, what? That's like saying, what does chocolate taste like to someone that never had chocolate? Oh, chocolate tastes like chocolate, right? Whereas like, think about what's the purpose of educating? So someone can make a more informed decision. When we educate them, it manages expectations. That's why when you meet with your primary care physician, or if you're taking a new medication or whatever the case may be, they educate us on what to expect. So it manages our anxiety and everything and sets the stage for progress as a whole. So another scenario I mentioned in the study group where let's say if I had a newborn infant, right? And I had no prior information about, an infant. If I were to say, guys, I think I'm messing up as a father. And you're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, I have this new infant. They're 3 months old and they cry. They continuously cry. Like I'm doing something wrong. Like I must be a bad father. Like every time they cry, like I'm attentive. I change the diaper, do everything. Like I know about people that when they cry, they're either really really happy or like something sad's going on, and I'm changing their diaper and stuff. I don't think they're like super happy about that. I mean, they're happy about that, but they're not like super happy. But so they're crying. I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something wrong. I imagine you guys would stop you and say, "Wait a second, Ray. We feel you. Like it's okay. Take a breath, but let's educate you about the nature of being an infant." Where they're going to cry regardless of what you're doing because that's how they communicate right now at this stage in their life. And I'm like, wait a second, so I'm not doing nothing wrong? And they're like, no, you're saying like you're attentive, you're doing all these things and stuff. No, it's just to manage your anxiety. Let me educate you about an infant. So that's just a rule of thumb when it comes to when should a social worker educate a client. Honestly, the sooner the better because it sets the stage for the rest of the journey of you guys working together. So just keep that in mind. And as you see here on screen, we actually have the cycle of abuse, the honeymoon period, the tension building, and the explosion. So with the tension building on the right-hand side, that's where like the criticisms, the yelling, kind of like the poking, right? And then the explosion happens, which is the actual abuse and all of that's going down and everything. And coming out of that's the honeymoon period where it's like the apologies, the promises, I'm sorry, the gifts, that'll never happen again, da 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 da. And then in X amount of time, it goes right back into the tension building. So even going back to the education, if a client is unaware because they're like, oh no, it's fine, things are getting better and stuff, we want to educate them about that so they can make a more informed decision. But here's the cycle of abuse for us to see. Okay, tribe, that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell a social worker friend because we don't want to be licensed by ourselves. Study group information will be down below in the description of this video, and as well as other helpful resources I have for us. And on this, I know I'm gonna sound like a broken record. Find a study buddy. Study buddy, study buddy, study buddy, study buddy, study buddy. Whether it's from university or you just know someone already taking the exam, and the Facebook group, right? Join our Facebook group. Our tribe is growing, and find that study buddy so that way you can help motivate each other, keep each other accountable, and really process the information together where, both of you decide like, okay, we're going to cover this topic right here, and we're just going to discuss it and see why things make sense and why maybe we thought about something else previously, but they kind of changed our mind or shifted like, oh, this is how you respond. Okay, now they say it like that, I get it now. That makes sense, right? Really, really understand that information so we can go in there, focus on the exam, pass the exam, get our license, and continue our social work journey. All right, tribe, I'll see you next video.